At least 1 out of 3 women have been beaten, forced into sex, or otherwise abused in their lifetime. Violence against women is regrettably a global epidemic. International Rescue Committee (IRC), in partnership with the Ministry of Devolution and Planning, USAID, National Gender and Equality Commission, amongst other stakeholders, took part in the 16 Days of Activism against Gender-Based Violence launch. The launch took place at the Deputy Sub-County Commissioner's Office, Embakasi, and was graced by various government officials, international partners, private stakeholders, and the general public.
In 2002, I was working for a company that was offering taxi services, and during my day-to-day activities, I was supposed to meet a business partner for us to conclude on a business venture that we were supposed to do. And then it happened that I was supposed to meet him, and when he was dropping me home, we were carjacked, and I was raped at gunpoint by the carjackers. And what I want to tell you is, man, woman, or child, as we are talking about issues of sexual and gender-based violence, we need to take the issue seriously because it affects the person, mind, body, and spirit. And people use different coping mechanisms to fill the void, because it takes away your dignity, it takes away who you are, that core being of you being a man, woman, or child. And the reason why I want to actually champion and try and convince people to look at issues of sexual and gender-based violence differently, for the men, the people who get abused, the majority are women and children, and we lose it out when we bring in issues of culture and tradition, where we say women are supposed to be suppressed or women are supposed to go through forms of violence so that the man can be seen as a person who has power or the leader or the head of the home. I want to be honest, my experience with police at that particular time wasn't good, because they asked me if anything had happened to me, and I told them yes. And the best they can do was to ask me whether I have a boyfriend or a boyfriend or a husband. And if I tell them, they're going to leave me. So I know that was 2002, but I can share the same experience when we took a survivor to one of the police stations to report a case. And the person who actually was in charge of that police post actually told the girl, word for word, unaenda kujienjoy unga inazidi maji. I want you to work with me, because at the end of the day, what I did, because of my challenges, I started supporting survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. The reason why I'm saying that, if you do not get comprehensive care and support as a survivor of sexual and gender-based violence, there are issues that come with it. We see people are getting pregnant, they're contracting HIV and AIDS. We have issues of past violations actually spilling over to the present, because women and children who've been abused become potential perpetrators of the same crime that happened to them. So we actually need to support survivors to go through a comprehensive healing process, because it's not about me, it's not about my family, it's about the whole society.
I'm standing here representing the County Director of Health, Dr. Ochola, and I want to say that I reiterate what Wangukanja has said. I handled a 6-month-old girl who was defiled by a stepfather. And up to now, what the grandmother told me is, Roslyn, one day, nitakuletea huyu mtoto uweze kumwelezea mahali nguo yake ya uzazi ilienda. Because she had to have her uterus removed at that small age. All I can say again, as Ministry of Health in the Nairobi County, you do know we have public hospitals that are providing gender-based violence cases, handling them, but we are constrained in the sense that apart from Kenyatta Hospital and Nairobi Women's Hospital, all the other hospitals do not have a one-stop shop. We are kindly requesting partners, let us come together. Remember, we have said GBV is not about the woman. GBV is about the society.
In the last financial year, we received a total of 120 gender-based violence patients, and I wish to note that this is severe underreporting because of various socio-cultural issues. Of these 120, 12 of them were defilement, and this includes sodomy of very small children, sometimes by people who are supposed to be dear to them. Last month, I wish to say, we received a young boy, about 10 years old, who had been sodomized by his father. Of the 120, 38 of them were rape. Child abuse were 26 cases, and 44 of them were various other cases of gender-based violence. In our hospital, we offer various services for those who have been affected, and this includes treatment for the physical injuries, including post-exposure prophylaxis for HIV. It includes counseling and the documentation of this kind of violence. We also collaborate with the Kenya Police Service, where we do the reporting. In our hospital, we have various challenges which hinder us giving the support that we sincerely hope that we should be giving. We have a particular challenge in terms of capacity for psychosocial follow-up of the victims. In trying to help the gender-based violence victims, I wish to note that we have received a lot of cooperation from the Kenya Police Service and the Ministry of Interior and the coordination of the national government.
Kenyans, we have come a long way. Not only does our constitution outlaw all forms of GBV, we have also been able to enact the Children's Act 2001, the Sexual Offences Act 2006, and the FGM Act 2011, which prohibits female genital mutilation for our girls and women. Today we have hotlines like the Childline 116, specifically to report on offences committed against minors, and 1195 for offences against adults, both active 24 hours. In 2008-2009, there is a research that was done by KDSHS that indicated that 39% of the females had experienced physical violence since the age of 15. And almost 1 out of 4 have experienced such violence in a year. And the year before the survey was done. On sexual violence, more than 20% of Kenyan women have been reported to have experienced such violences, with the highest percent having been violated by current or former partners or spouses. Overall, 14% females aged 15 to 49 years had experienced both physical and sexual violence, while 45% had experienced one form of violation and 25% physical violence. Lastly, we need to develop a multi-level and multi-sectoral data collection system for generating up the data of GBV cases. We also appeal to the Inspector General to establish a gender crimes unit with a dedicated team of specialized officers to address GBV. We are also appealing for separate special spaces within the police stations for the survivors with these facilities that will allow confidential collection of evidence and testimonies, and vehicles to rescue survivors and ferry them to get assistance.
This is a time when we have our reflections to think about what we've been able to put in place as a country, the legislative framework, the policy framework, vis-a-vis the actual happenings. The roots of violence against women lie historically in the unequal power relations between men and women that then leads us to the issues around discrimination against women, both in public and private sphere. The aspect around the patriarchal nature of our society have also contributed to this quite a lot. The National Gender and Equality Commission, on GEC as we call ourselves, joins our partners and the rest of the world in marking the 16 days of activism against sexual gender-based violence. And of course, we'll intensify this campaign until the 10th of December, when we usher in the celebration on the Human Rights Day. It had to take a couple of years for the international community to realize that women's rights were human rights. So this is why it is necessary that we all get alert to talk about the real issues, and we culminate these when we do the celebrations on 10th of December. In the past, in this country, the National Gender and Equality Commission, together with the partners and the stakeholders from both public and private sector, at the national and at the community level, have worked with the subsector, the GBV subsector cluster, to ensure that we remember and celebrate the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Ladies and gentlemen, the global theme for the campaign is From Peace in the Home to Peace in the World. Let's challenge militarism and end violence against women, which for us, we have now domesticated here, and we are doing our campaign working with the police to end gender-based violence, from peace at home to peace in the community. I wish to urge the national government and the 47 county governments to provide adequate budgetary allocations to sexual gender-based violence initiatives. The message must go out to the public to remain vigilant against sexual gender-based violence. We must invest heavily on preventive as well as rehabilitative measures to ensure that institutions that attend to these cases have the capacity to respond timely and professionally.
On behalf of the UN team in Kenya, I am deeply honored to participate in the launch of this year's 16 Days of Activism against gender-based violence. Largely remains hidden in a culture of silence. Hence, it is necessary to give the fight against gender-based violence a voice through such platforms as the one we have today. Globally, as many as 1 in every 3 women has been beaten, coerced into sex, or abused in some other way, most often by someone she knows. 1 woman in 4 has been abused during pregnancy. 1 in 5 women worldwide will become a victim of rape or attempted rape in her lifetime, and the majority of sexual assault victims are young girls. 700,000 to 2 million women and girls are trafficked across international borders annually, including figures on domestic trafficking could bring that total to 4 million. The last Kenya Demographic and Health Survey reported that a gender-based violence prevalence rate of 37 and a female genital mutilation prevalence rate of 27 for Kenya. Gender-based violence in Kenya is a pervasive practice that debilitates men and women, boys and girls. Kenya now has a progressive constitution with laws that respond to female genital mutilation, sexual offenses, and human trafficking. Kenya also boosts a gender-based violence framework for prevention and response, a gender-based violence policy currently under development, among other progressive legislation.
Today, as we start this campaign, I'd like to commend the Kenyan government for focusing on this issue and for focusing on the role of security forces and the need for greater accountability as this year's theme in commemorating the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. By pledging to do so, the Kenyan government has demonstrated its commitment to stronger efforts by security forces to stop gender-based violence. This commitment will, I believe, help women who are suffering get assistance and secure justice. And violence against women cuts across ethnic, racial, socioeconomic